Some deaths leave us with more questions than answers, shrouded in mystery, intrigue, and theories that refuse to fade. From literary legends to Hollywood icons, these puzzling ends continue to haunt our imaginations. Join us as we dive into the chilling stories of two famous figures whose final moments remain unsolved to this day. The mysterious death of Edgar Allan Poe. It was September 27th, 1849, when Poe set out from Richmond, Virginia, bound for New York City. But something went horribly wrong. For a full week, the world lost track of the great poet. Then, on October 3rd, 1849, Poe was found in Baltimore, disoriented, drenched, and nearly unconscious. What happened to him in those lost days remains one of the darkest mysteries in literary history. On that fateful night, Joseph Walker, a pressman for the Baltimore Sun, was on his way to a polling station in Gunners Hall when he found the body of a man, sprawled in the mud, barely able to move. As he drew near, a horrifying recognition dawned on him. The figure was none other than Edgar Allan Poe. Poe was barely conscious. His hair was matted, his clothes in tatters. Walker, concerned, asked Poe if he had any friends in Baltimore who could help him. But Poe could barely speak. Desperate, Walker sent a note to Poe's associate, Joseph E. Snodgrass, begging for assistance. By the time Snodgrass arrived, Poe had been admitted to Washington College Hospital. His condition was shocking. Once a well-groomed literary figure, now he lay in a hospital bed, dishevelled, trembling, and covered in strange, mismatched clothing. For days, Poe drifted in and out of delirium, his mind consumed by vivid hallucinations. In his fevered state, he muttered the name Reynolds, a name that still haunts historians to this day. Who was Reynolds? Why was Poe calling for him, even in his final moments? And Poe also spoke of a wife in Richmond. Was it his late wife, Virginia, or another woman, a fiancée? A shadowy figure whose identity may never be known. On October 7th, 1849, Edgar Allan Poe died in that very hospital. His last words, trembling and desperate, were, "Lord, help my poor soul." But the mystery doesn't end with Poe's death. The cause of his condition, his bizarre behaviour, and his sudden tragic end remain as elusive as the poet's darkest tales. What really happened during those final days? Was it the result of a horrific drinking binge, or was something far more sinister at play? Some believed Poe had fallen off the wagon, succumbing to alcohol after years of battling addiction. But those who were close to him in his final days, doctors, friends, and associates, were divided. Was this the end of a tortured soul, lost in a final spree of excess? But modern tests on Poe's hair samples indicate something far more disturbing. Low lead levels were found, suggesting Poe had remained sober in the days leading up to his death. Could the cause of his death have been something else entirely? Theories swirl around his final moments. One of the most terrifying suggestions, that Edgar Allan Poe was the victim of a twisted, nightmarish crime known as cooping. Cooping was a gruesome practice in 19th century Baltimore, a form of voter fraud where gangs would kidnap men, lock them in a coop, and force them to vote multiple times under duress. Alcohol, drugs, and violence were used to control the victims, and to hide their true identities, they were sometimes dressed in strange, ill-fitting clothes. This could explain the condition in which Poe was found, disoriented, dressed in clothes that weren't his. Could Poe have been forced to vote multiple times, drugged, and then discarded in a gutter like a broken puppet? The cooping theory is one of the most widely debated explanations, but it doesn't end there. Another theory, darker still, suggests that Poe was murdered at the hands of the brothers of his fiancée, Sarah Elmira Shelton. According to this theory, Poe was confronted in Philadelphia, threatened and humiliated. His decision to marry Shelton had enraged her brothers, who forced him to drink, knowing that alcohol would destroy him. Perhaps Poe was left to wander, vulnerable and broken, a man haunted by fear. But when Poe made his way back to Richmond, he was again pursued. this time by those who meant him harm. It was in Baltimore, they say, that he met his end. Was it an accident? Or was it murder? And did Poe truly die at the hands of those who sought to destroy him? Theories of poisoning, brain fever, and even rabies have all been suggested. But no matter how many explanations are offered, no clear answers ever emerge. Poe's death certificate, it's lost. His hospital records, gone. In the years that followed, Poe's remains were moved to a new grave. But when workers opened his coffin, something strange and unsettling was found. A mass, something hard, rolling around in his skull. Was it Poe's brain, preserved against all odds? Or could it have been a calcified tumour? One thing is certain, the mystery only deepens. Could Poe's behaviour, his erratic actions, his hallucinations, and his tragic end all be the result of a hidden illness, a tumour slowly devouring his mind? Was Poe, in his final moments, not just the tortured poet but a man at the mercy of his own body? The truth of Poe's death may never be known. And perhaps that is the most terrifying thing of all, because in the end, Edgar Allan Poe's death may be the most chilling story he ever wrote, a tale without an ending, a mystery that, much like his works, will never be fully understood. And so, the master of horror remains, the master of his own mystery, forever shrouded in darkness. The death of Marilyn Monroe. Marilyn Monroe, born Norma Jean Mortensen on June 1st, 1926, had a difficult childhood. Raised in foster homes and orphanages, she didn't experience the stability many take for granted. In the early 1940s, she found her way to Hollywood, where she began modelling under the name Marilyn Monroe. After several years of work in modelling and bit parts, her breakthrough came in the 1950s, with roles in Niagara, 1953, and Gentlemen Prefer Blondes, 1953. Her stunning looks and bubbly persona made her a household name, and she quickly became one of the most beloved and most photographed actresses of the 20th century. But while Monroe was adored by millions, her personal life was fraught with turmoil. 2 failed marriages, ongoing struggles with mental health, and a deep sense of loneliness plagued her throughout her career. Though she was adored by fans, her life was far from glamorous behind the scenes. Her divorces, her battles with substance abuse, and her reputation for being difficult to work with all contributed to a deepening sense of isolation. By 1962, she was recovering from a string of failed films, personal breakdowns, and her most recent divorce from playwright Arthur Miller. In the months leading up to her death, Monroe had been undergoing therapy with her psychiatrist, Dr. Ralph Greenson. Those who knew her described her as emotionally fragile, struggling with anxiety and depression. On the evening of August 4th, 1962, Monroe was reportedly seen at a dinner party at Dr. Greenson's home. She appeared to be in relatively good spirits, though her emotional state was delicate. That night, she reportedly had a phone conversation with her former lover, President John F. Kennedy. The details of their conversation remain unclear, but some have speculated that it was a tense or upsetting exchange. Monroe's last known activity occurred in the early morning hours of August 5th. Her housekeeper, Eunice Murray, noticed that the bedroom light was still on in Monroe's Brentwood home around 3 a.m. Concerned, she went to check on Monroe, but the bedroom door was locked from the inside. After calling Monroe's name several times with no response, Murray reportedly broke into the room through the window. There, she discovered Marilyn Monroe's lifeless body in her bed, clutching the phone in one hand, an empty bottle of sleeping pills beside her. The official cause of death was determined to be a likely overdose of barbiturates. The coroner's report noted the presence of pills scattered around her bedside, and the police found no signs of foul play. Monroe's death was ruled as self-inflicted, and the case was closed. But even with the official explanation, numerous inconsistencies surrounding the event have led many to question the true nature of Monroe's death. One key issue was the delay in calling the authorities. Eunice Murray reportedly didn't notify the police until several hours after she found Monroe's body. Some have speculated that the scene was tampered with before the authorities arrived. For example, Dr. Greenson, Monroe's psychiatrist, was reportedly called before the police were, leading some to believe that someone had taken steps to control the situation before investigators could arrive. Additionally, Monroe's therapist had visited her earlier that evening and was present when her body was discovered, but there was no clear explanation as to why she hadn't been checked on sooner. As the years have passed, various conspiracy theories have emerged about Monroe's death. While the official story is self-inflicted, some suggest that her death may have been orchestrated by powerful figures. One of the most prominent theories is that Monroe was silenced due to her alleged affair with President John F. Kennedy and his brother, Attorney General Robert F. Kennedy. At the time of her death, it was widely rumored that she had been romantically involved with both brothers, and some have speculated that Monroe had become a threat to the Kennedy family's political image. Could her affair with the Kennedy brothers have led to her death? Some believe that Monroe was killed to prevent her from revealing secrets about the relationship, possibly implicating the Kennedys or embarrassing them politically. Another theory links Monroe's death to the Mafia, claiming that she may have been caught in the middle of the Mafia's dealings with the Kennedy administration. Monroe's death, according to this theory, could have been the result of a secretive and dangerous political conspiracy. While no conclusive evidence has emerged to support any of these theories, the contradictions in the official story have left many people skeptical. Could it have been a simple overdose, as the authorities claim? Or was there something more sinister at play? What is clear, however, is that Marilyn Monroe's death marked the tragic end of a brilliant but deeply troubled life. She was only 36 years old when she died, and her passing left an indelible mark on Hollywood and popular culture. Monroe's life, much like her death, was a story of contradictions. She was both adored and deeply lonely, a symbol of beauty and a woman haunted by her inner demons. The mysterious deaths of Edgar Allan Poe and Marilyn Monroe remain haunting enigmas, each shrouded in uncertainty and unanswered questions. Whether the result of tragic personal struggles or darker, more sinister forces, their untimely ends only add to their lasting legacies. In the end, both poets and icons, they continue to captivate our imaginations, their final stories forever suspended in the shadows of mystery.